We have tamed the children. We just want them to write down what we tell them. At the day of exams, they should put down what we have told them. We say you are the best student the country has ever known. That kind of education system will not transform Ghana. That kind of education system is not going to give us critical thinking individuals, especially since we are in the 21st century and education 4.0, the fourth industrial revolution. You can't memorize your way out of poverty.
Ways in which people are controlled, first of all, frighten people, and secondly, demoralize them. An educated, healthy, and confident nation is harder to govern. And I think there's an element in the thinking of some people. We don't want people to be educated, healthy, and confident because they would get out of control. The top 1% of the world's population own 80% of the world's wealth. It's incredible that people put up with it. But they're poor, they're demoralized, they're frightened, and therefore they think perhaps the safest thing to do is take orders and hope for the best.
Hello, darlings. Oh shit. If I say oh shit, say what? Baddest. That's how we roll, darling. Yes. This is 2025. Say energy. Hey, don't play. If you play, you're gonna learn, and learn the hard way. So it is so obvious, it is so glaring to know that it is this ambassadorial work, this ambassador work. Hey, that they cause trouble. Oh my God! And the funny thing is that we aren't stopping this work anytime soon, till old age. Hey, till we retire. Until then, we move, right? Welcome back to another episode of what? Saying it just the way it is right here today on the table of vibes upon vibes with what? Chivik. You see, this smiles, this energy, this cheerfulness, this aura of positivity can never ever be taken away by anybody. I was born like that. No negative zone, everything positive. So I need everybody who is on here to maintain, to sustain, and let's take this ship, let's take this boat to the permanent side, because see as it be, I never enter motherland. Motherland, they bless me with wuto. Talk less of when I touch down. Me, I will come and tap. By the time I enter, hey, even Tinubu will hear. US President Donald Trump, China, name them, all the presidents worldwide will know that the ambassador has touched down the motherland. Now morning, it never set. When it's set, we go know. For my true diehard fans, then say I get fans. Oh, Dogu fans, wait, sabi. Mona chop knuckles. You guys know what it is. You know what it is. You know how it is, right? So guys just needed to, ginger us. Nothing much, nothing mega. Now, have you ever wondered why it is that, especially in Africa here, right? If I want to streamline it, I would say for my own country, Nigeria, that most times it is a thing that when you school in Nigeria for your basic, which is the primary, secondary, junior and senior secondary, and you are done with the senior high school, the secondary school, and you write your WAEC, West African Examination Council. Most times, most financially capable, average to high income earners, mostly always decide to send their children abroad, send their children overseas to school, overseas to get the basic knowledge and come out with a degree that most times they tend or tag to be the most presentable, the most recognized certificates that at the end of the day, anywhere you go to and present it at, you definitely want to seem as though schooling abroad, maybe in countries like America, Canada, UK, and the rest of these countries are the in thing. But today, our main focus of the country I want us to be talking about today is America, United States of America, right? America in general, their educational sector. Now, the question is, why should you school in Ghana instead of America? And Ghana is a country located in West Africa. And for the least I know, with my full chest, when it comes to West Africa, Ghana tops and ranks number one, yes, of the country with best educational standard, curriculum, infrastructure, and everything that education is entailed, right? Feel free to disagree, but I am telling you with all confidence today that when it comes to education, the best in West Africa, Ghana stands and ranks one, no doubt, right? But we'll get to the reasons, the details, the points, facts and figures why Ghana is now the new hub of education compared to what we have been running our prior before now, even till date, to the overseas, the Canada, the UK, the America of today. Now, I'm definitely going to give us an eye-opener, a shocker, to convince you at the end of the day, you need to sit down, do your mathematics very well, your calculations, your research and analysis, and come to a better conclusion that between schooling in West Africa, in Ghana, and definitely in the America, which will you definitely choose? You see, for Nigeria, we'll keep that aside because we understand what's going on in Nigeria. At least we cannot bring it out here, right? We know we are there, we are somewhere there, but we are thinking on how we are going to upgrade. But for now, let's leave Nigeria, my dear fatherland, somewhere to sit down and watch. Out of curiosity and the ability to want to know, because if you don't know me, if I decide that I want to investigate, if I want to find out something, I will go to the roots, to the ends, and get that thing resolved, get that thing out, dig it out. So I went deep to the root to find out why is it that most people always travel to America. You see them when they come out like this, in their regalia, during their convocations, their matriculation ceremony, graduation ceremony, you'll be like, you see them like, we are graduates, we graduated in this school, we graduated from this country, we schooled in this school. But there is a shocker from the America of all, the greatest America, that their own education is not what we think. Oh, not be me talking. I would like us to listen very well what America's education is all about.
Ways in which people are controlled, first of all, frighten people, and secondly, demoralize them. An educated, healthy, and confident nation is harder to govern. And I think there's an element in the thinking of some people. We don't want people to be educated, healthy, and confident because they will get out of control. The top 1% of the world's population own 80% of the world's wealth. It's incredible that people put up with it, but they're poor, they're demoralized, they're frightened, and therefore they think perhaps the safest thing to do is take orders and hope for the best.
American citizens are more uneducated than ever. Gen Alpha is performing behind their grade levels. The average American adult reads on a 7th to 8th grade level, and America's test scores are woefully behind other countries, including developing countries, despite the fact that we are the richest country in the world. A recent study by the University of Pennsylvania revealed that just a quarter of Americans can name all 3 branches of government.
What is the weirdest thing about America?
They're kind of stupid.
What's the most annoying thing about Americans?
But they just don't know anything.
What do you think are some of the biggest American stereotypes? That they're stupid?
The perception that Americans are uneducated has persisted for decades. But what if I told you that that's all by design? That those in power have an incentive to keep Americans uneducated?
Why their standard of education is either good or bad according to them, and why it is a problem or definitely a hindrance to the growth and development of citizens themselves, but rather a growth and sustainability development to the economy and the economy alone. Why they will not want their citizens, an average citizen or the poor masses, to be well educated and well grounded. In case you don't know, illiteracy is a disease, a very terrible one, and education is key. The ability to be on the know, to be knowledgeable about your surrounding, your society, your economy, in fact, your social life, everything that has to do with knowing, being knowledgeable is the best key to success in life. That's why they say ignorance is a very big disease. It's a very serious challenge that has eaten not just Africans alone, but so many countries in Africa. And also, it is the same ignorant tactics that they are feeding the America citizens to be kept in the dark so that so many things will not be uncovered.
Let's talk about how a lack of education is a cornerstone of American culture, and it's not an accident. In my last video, I talked extensively about how Gen Alpha is performing behind their grade levels, and I attributed it to this sense of anti-intellectualism that is so prevalent in American culture. But I want to dive a little bit deeper into how the United States has made a very deliberate attempt to undermine education in an effort to maintain the status quo. The US was built on the foundation of the self-made man, made popular by the likes of men like Adam Smith, who's often dubbed the father of capitalism. In his 1964 book, Anti-Intellectualism in American Life, Richard Hofstadter notes that Americans have always placed greater value on physical prowess, practical training, and industriousness over intellect. He discusses how government leaders and wealthy tycoons were always wary of intellectuals, fearing that their knowledge would be disruptive to the social order. He states that intellect is always on the move against something. Some oppression, fraud, illusion, dogma, or interest is constantly falling under the scrutiny of the intellectual class and becoming the object of exposure, indignation, or ridicule. 20th century philosopher John Dewey once wrote, "If we once start thinking, no one can guarantee what will be the outcome, except that many objects, ends, and institutions will be surely doomed. doomed. Every thinker puts some portion of an apparently stable world in peril, and no one can wholly predict what will emerge in its place. And so in the early years of the US, those who held power and influence in society preferred the man who used his brawn over his brain because education was reserved for the elite ruling class. When Horace Mann, who's often dubbed the father of American public education, visited Prussia, he was so enamored by how orderly and docile the students were in their schools. He took these observations with him back to Massachusetts, and the compulsory education system was born. He wrote in the Common School Journal, quote, "Order is essential in all business, and none more so than keeping in school." And so poor children were sent to public schools not to gain intellect, but to prepare them to become the next generation of docile worker bees to boost the American economy. Meanwhile, the children of wealthy elites attended private schools. And Alonzo Potter, who was the Bishop of the Episcopal Church of the United States, once said in the mid-1800s that the purpose of public education was to, quote, "make men more industrious, more active, systematic, more economical as producers and preservers of property." The efficiency movement of the 1890s to the 1930s, influenced by mechanical engineer Frederick W. Taylor, further solidified the divide between the intellectual pursuits and the corporate business ideals. In Taylor's efforts to enhance economic efficiency and labor productivity, he segregated general workers from those that he deemed to be capable of becoming managers one day. And Taylor himself once said, quote, "One of the very first requirements for a man who is fit to handle the pig iron, a worker, in other words, is that he shall be so stupid and phlegmatic that he resembles in his mental the makeup of the ox." And by the 1960s, prominent figures like Irving Kristol argued that a new class of intellectuals was negatively impacting capitalism. President Eisenhower frequently used anti-intellectual rhetoric during his campaign, characterizing intellectuals as individuals who, quote, "take more words than necessary to tell more than he knows." And President Lyndon B. Johnson also commented that self-proclaimed intellectuals were more concerned with trivial and superficial matters than with the foundational elements of what truly built America. And today we're seeing a public education system that seems almost designed to fail, not unlike what we've seen in America's anti-intellectual past. It's because those in power know that education is the key to social mobility. And when you don't have social mobility, guess what? You stay within the service industry. They have an incentive to keep Americans uneducated so that the rich stay rich and the poor stay poor. Public schools across the country, especially those that are in low-income neighborhoods, which I discussed extensively in my last video, are poorly funded, which causes a large swath of the American public to be either completely uneducated or poorly educated. Today, 80% of America's economy is built off of the service industry, and those who are less educated inevitably end up in these service industry roles. America's economy depends on there being people who do not get to have a high-quality education because inevitably they'll be the worker bees. And a lot of public schools offer a very low quality of education because they were built on a framework of a 20th century factory model by wealthy elites like John D. Rockefeller and Frederick T. Gates. Both Rockefeller and Gates established the Rockefeller Education Board in 1902, which shaped much of the modern American public education system. They intentionally trained students in public schools to develop skills that would make them fit to work in factories. Frederick T. Gates said in 1913 that, "In our dream, we have limitless resources, and the people yield themselves with the perfect docility to our molding hand. We shall not try to make these people or any of their children into philosophers or men of learning or men of science. We have not to raise up from among them authors, educators, poets, or men of letters. We shall not search for embryo great artists, painters, musicians, not lawyers, doctors, preachers, politicians, statesmen, of whom we have ample supply. The task we set before ourselves is very simple. We will organize children and teach them to do in a perfect way the things that their fathers and mothers are doing in an imperfect way." And today this framework is still prevalent. We all know that service industry workers are severely underpaid, even though they are responsible for literally building this country. They're overworked and underpaid, and America's economy depends on their labor. The less educated that someone is, the more susceptible they are to believe in the state, to believe in propaganda, not question their government, not question those in power, because they don't have the critical thinking skills to do so. And so now you're seeing an ongoing push to privatize public education. Why? Because they want to run these schools like businesses for profit instead of as a public education service that is available for everyone. Federal initiatives like school choice are a great example of that. School choice vouchers allow children to attend private schools and charter schools using federal funds. This federal money is being taken away from public school, and the lack of funding is why public school teachers aren't paid enough, and public schools are deprived of resources to teach kids in the same level as private schools and charter schools. I mean, teachers are literally having to purchase their own supplies. What other industry requires the employee to have to purchase their own supplies that are required for them to do their jobs?
We don't ask pilots to pay for airplane fuel. We don't ask cops to pay for guns, bullets, or handcuffs. And we don't ask doctors or nurses to pay for medical or surgical equipment. So then why is it okay to ask teachers to supply their own classrooms? I will always say that teaching is one of the most important roles within our society, and yet we provide them little to no resources to effectively do their job and to educate one of the most important populations within our communities, which are young people. Everyone is always talking about legacy this and legacy that, but real legacy lies in teaching our children to be able to properly participate in society. That means giving them a high quality, accessible education from birth. But in America, they want you to birth children, but all of the resources you need in order to develop and educate a well-established child are few and far in between. Too many teachers are drowning in debt trying to provide a high-quality education to students, which is not their sole responsibility. It is our collective responsibility as a society. Many teachers are also drowning in debt because salaries are so low, and the vast majority of them are living in cities where they can barely afford to get by. Why is this important? Because how can you expect teachers to inspire the next generation of thinkers and doers and teachers if they themselves can barely afford to keep food on the table and keep their lights on? And they're expected to provide supplies for their classroom? Like, make it make sense.
If you're not in education, you do not have a full picture of just how broken we are. And, none of this is new. It was broken before COVID, but COVID has exposed cracks that are undeniable and honestly irreparable at this point. I'm not saying it's hopeless, but we have to chuck the whole system. But we're not going to do that because we've been treating public education like a business with for-profit testing. The way funding is distributed, everything about it is capitalism. But public education was intended to be a socialist construct. It's to serve the collective, not individual interests. Parents were never meant to be customers. We shouldn't have customer service. That's not the intention of public school. And when public schools fall and when healthcare collapses, what exactly is left?
A study by the Network for Public Education found that charter schools cost school districts over $400 million in funding each year, resulting in reduced resources for public schools. And because private schools and charter schools are highly selective on who they admit, children with disabilities and those from other marginalized backgrounds are often not given a chance to be admitted. In fact, a report from the National Council on Disability found that students with disabilities are often excluded from charter school and voucher programs, with many schools claiming that they lack the resources to provide the appropriate accommodations. In other words, these charter schools and private schools don't want to make their schools accessible for students with disabilities. Therefore, students with disabilities are not able to attend. And so they inevitably have to attend public schools where they also don't have resources there to accommodate them because they're so poorly funded.
What we're witnessing is the gutting of public education. And we're witnessing it in a slow spiral of doom, right? You see the rise of charter schools over the last few years. Found that the charter schools do not feel obligated to teach English as a second language students who have IEPs, students who are struggling in some way. Charter schools have such great numbers because they boot kids out who need more assistance. Meanwhile, the funding of those charter schools means they are gutting other public schools, which are required to take kids who are struggling and cannot kick them out. There's a reason you see so many young teachers on here talking about the kids struggling. It's not just that the parents aren't doing enough. The young teachers, some of whom are going to be Teach for America teachers, have also not been given the tools to help kids who need extra assistance with learning to read. The system is failing everyone, kids, parents, and teachers included. And that is a deliberate choice.
We also, of course, have politicians who are banning books left and right because they don't want people to be informed because, again, a less intelligent population means you're more easily manipulated. They're also, of course, killing diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives in schools and universities nationwide that allow students of color the opportunity to learn because they certainly don't want people of color to be traversing up the social hierarchy either. When education isn't accessible to all, people are more susceptible to manipulation. Think of legal documents, for example. Have you ever wondered why legal documents are written in this old English legal jargon that the vast majority of people don't understand? It's because it's by design, right? It's meant for a select few to be able to decode it. It's meant for you to have to hire an attorney in order to decode this language because you couldn't do it on your own. And not many people could afford to hire a lawyer. And so they just end up being duped and manipulated. Think of medical documents. Everybody needs medical care. So why isn't that written in plain language where most people can understand? It's by design. Author and physician Michael Crichton.
Now, as you rightly heard, this is the reason why they do not want a typical average American citizen to be really educated and self-empowered, because they know that if everybody at the end of the day, if every of them at the end of the day is empowered, like educationally empowered to the point that they can stand on their own, other than the rat race that 70 to 80% of both citizens and immigrants of the country always do as a means to an end. in terms of surviving, as well as and as good as building the country's economy. Emphasis on building the country's economy, because that is where you will sense the white man's understanding, the white man's approach, the white man's character, right? They want to, grab you, hold you, pin you down, suck you, use you, and use you to the end of time. If you know, you know. That is pure fact and truth. And that's why at the end of the day, when you ask, how is their educational system even better than others, even better than that of Ghana, we will get to find out. Just keep listening. You will see that the system, in a nutshell, evolves around the same thing. Now you can understand that, like you have seen, a system will definitely teach you those things that are geared towards what? Building the economy, building the growth and the success of the country, which is not bad in a nutshell, but will not give you the grounds, putting you on the spot of what? Going to school, come out, which is this notion that has been sold to so many people that you go to school to be educated, not empowered. Now you go to school, you come back, it teaches you how to go to school, come out and get employed in one of the government and public parastatals, right? Institutions as what? A public servant, building the economy, but will not teach you how to come out, stand out, and empower yourself, leverage on yourself. Look at what foreign country China is doing. More of what? Practical innovation, invention. Today, America, as we speak, even as we see them as world power, still partners with China for most of their productions in terms of invention and innovation. If you know, you know. That is no fact to be debated on. They still give China most of their products, most of the things they want to invent, for China to invent for them. Now, look at the difference between them now and China. China is the world power in terms of economy, the world producers in terms of what? Economy. And this is self-empowerment. This is self-leveraging. This is self-development. This is self-growth and what? Increment and expansion. Now, as if that is not enough, let's leave the Western European, Asian, or Chinese countries at this point and bring it back to Africa. You see, when you streamline it to Africa, like I pointed out, Ghana
is changing its year memorization method of teaching and learning, also known as Chiwempo, in schools across the country. On Thursday, September 22nd, Education Minister Dr. Yao Osei Educhum raised these concerns when he was speaking at the Transforming Education Summit at the 77th section of the United Nations General Assembly. And here's what he said.
We have good children in Ghana, so respectful. But I go to schools upon schools and I speak with the students. And when I finish speaking with them, I'll say, do you have a question for me? No hand goes up. A hand is just to go up. In all my encounters in Ghanaian classrooms, we have tamed the children. We just want them to write down what we tell them. At the day of exams, they should put down what we have told them. We say, you are the best student the country has ever known. That kind of education system will not transform Ghana. That kind of education system is not going to give us critical thinking individuals, especially since we are in the 21st century and education 4.0, the fourth industrial revolution. You can't memorize your way out of poverty, but you can critically think and innovate out of poverty. So Ghanaian schools, African schools have to begin to take a serious look at what I call the assertive curriculum. A curriculum that empowers the African child to ask questions and challenge the status quo respectfully within the African cultural context, but not a curriculum that tells the African child to be quiet and don't say anything when the adult is speaking, and tell the adult back, tell him back wherever he was told. That kind of education system, I don't care if we get to the point where every African child is in school. If you put all of them in school and do not change the way you teach them by empowering them to be assertive individuals, you will still not transform Africa through education. So as we embark on access, we also have to look at the quality and the relevance of the education system that will truly put us in a space where education can become the most important socio-economic transformation agent. Our education system now is not going to be what transforms our continent. And we need to take a serious look. I know about Ghana, I know about other countries. If you're a country in Africa and an exception, then you are good. But I know that invariably, we want to tame the children. The quietest child in the class is deemed as the most respectful. And we have to begin to take a serious look at the curricula, the pedagogy, the strategy that we are using so that Africa will be transformed through education. When we have the critical mass with critical mind to really challenge the status quo so that we can innovate ourselves out of poverty through education. Thank you for the opportunity.
These same concerns were highlighted by Dr. Elsie Efa-Koofman in a tech talk she gave 3 years ago on engineering education in Ghana.
There are 3 main public universities producing engineers in Ghana. Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, they produce the most engineers. On average, they produce 760 engineers. University of Ghana is a new entrant and produces on average, in that time frame, produce on average 50 graduates. There's also UMAT, University of Mines and Technology, which produce approximately 250 graduates a year during that period. Are these numbers sufficient? I don't know. That is one of the problems. What kind of education did these engineers receive? Were they trained to be able to solve our problems or not? So what are we doing? Nationally, we are known to be a most risk-averse society. We have zero tolerance for failure. If you fail in an endeavor, consider yourself done. And so with this kind of attitude, we look for things that work. So we have no patience for experimentation. We have no patience for trying things out and then learning along the way so that we can get better. So what happens is, nationally, we are interested in importing solutions. And I have seen this for myself. I teach at the Department of Biomedical Engineering, University of Ghana. I have taken my students on field trips to hospitals where we have asked the questions. The medical devices you are using, if we were to produce some in Ghana right now, would you use them? And we've been told point blank, no. How can we know that they work? On the other hand, the ones we import always work for us and we are okay with those, so that is what we will do. We have curricula that don't encourage exploration and problem solving. I was just talking to some of my past students and they told me they had, for example, a course they had to memorize 40 equations. If you successfully do that, you will get your A and a beautiful certificate. They have been programmed to respond to a reward system that rewards rote learning. They are the expert. We take the best, and the best means these are the people who can memorize the most. We will pick the best students who know how to memorize over a student who actually knows how to do something. So it's not because we cannot be innovators, that we cannot design, that we cannot solve real life problems. There's something inherently wrong with the way we are treating our students and the lack of expectations that we have for them.
In response to this, the government is laying down new measures, including the construction of the country's first ultra-modern science, technology, engineering and mathematics academy in Accra, which will ensure that students are equipped with the skill and ability to think through and generate innovative ideas that will better the needed technological development in the country. Some of the newly built STEM schools, like the Bosomtwi Girls STEM School and the Technical and Vocational Education Training School at East Legon, are currently operational, with other schools receiving new computer science laboratories and equipment. The minister also announced that the government is committed to establishing 20 STEM centers and 10 model STEM senior high schools across the country. The need for African schools to adapt a curriculum that empowers the African child cannot be overemphasized, and the effort the minister is taking deserves applause. In these modern times, many approaches to teaching a child how to think has been devised, and it is high time Ghana and Africa as a continent start training students to develop the skill set that fits the needs of our economy. I am excited that Ghana is embracing a new system that aligns with the needs of our economy.
You will see that one thing that is common with West African countries, or Ghana in a nutshell, is that their pattern of education has upgraded not just from the theoretical aspect of education, of learning, down starting from their basic, down to their senior high school, down to their higher institutions, are mostly dwelt or centered on the practical knowledge, not just the theoretical, the practical knowledge of education. What does the practical knowledge of education mean? We look at the TVET, we look at the STEM, we look at the technical and other institutions and colleges that centers on what? Empowering, teaching people skills. I mean skills that will not just save you for the time frame, for the temporal being, but that will save you for the lifetime event of it, that will propel you, groom you, build you, tutor you, coach you, and keep you outstanding in the crowd. That wherever you find yourself, right, as a citizen, as a graduate of any school from Ghana, you can be able to differentiate yourself from the crowd. You can be able to use these skills, practical knowledge, and work for yourself, build yourself, develop yourself, right? Now see where I'm coming. Develop yourself, and in doing so, you are no longer a liability, you are no longer idle, you are no longer a nuisance to the society, but a potential, an outstanding human being that is doing something for his or herself in the right path, in the right way, to add to the growth now and the development of the country. Now let's retrospect back to the days where social media was not a thing. We all know that still in this day and time, there are still hardship, there are still lack of job opportunities. So many people are still struggling, even in Ghana as much as Nigeria and every other country, right? There are loopholes that people still have this tendency of not being able to get education, because education in a nutshell is not cheap, right? People are still struggling to get well-grounded education that will set and propel them for the future. We see that most people now do not sit back and wait for that time when they have gotten it all when it comes to education, but they go to institutions, colleges, senior high schools that will start from the grassroots, from the background, from the base, and build them to become self-independent. Build them to become self-made, to use their talent, to use their skills, to use their gifts and empower themselves. Now, in this era of social media, we see that so many people, even from the Ghana community, as much as they have graduates who are self-employed, we see them on the media who are doing massive things, great things in terms of investment, right? Who most of them learned from the scratch, were self-empowered, were self-tutored from the school, which is the standard and the pattern and the system of Ghana education contribution to the citizen. And it is actually made free. I don't know the fate of what is definitely going to happen in this present government, which I pray that it continues. Free education, which is one thing that I love the most when it comes to the education. Free. You heard it for America. It is not even sustainable. It is not even well managed. They are still struggling. The truth is exposed out there. So it is not really what you think. And if you dig deep, do your research, thinking that where you are going to study at the end of the day, running to other countries to get the degree, and you want to either stay there, it is even better you get the degree, stay there and practice, stay there and work. Because when you get those degrees there, right, and come back to Nigeria, it is not smarting, it's not definitely going to match, or come back to your country, depending on where you are from as an African or a citizen of any country, because it might definitely, except in a country like Ghana, that they will say, okay, there are better opportunities there. If you have good degrees, they can fit you, you can easily fit into the system of what a conventional way of working and earning, right? But now, if you look at it now on the social media space, you will see that a lot of people are taking advantage of the social media era, are becoming self-employed, self-empowered with their skills, their knowledge, their ability to be creative, to come out on this space and put out something for the world to see, for people to see what they truly are, how they can easily deliver and present themselves as, you know, not just an ordinary citizen, but a creative one at that. Most of you who are not creatives at the end of the day will not understand what it takes to sit down, come up with an idea, film it, edit it, and post it. That's why it is not for everybody. It takes a strong and a resilient mind, a resilient person to be on this space, and you are pushing, you are thriving regardless of the challenges, the crises, the obstacles, and all whatnot. But you see people, not just from Ghana alone, all over the country, Nigeria, different countries, coming out on this space, showing different talents, putting out different talents. Is this not self-empowerment? Most of which were not even privileged to go to school. But you see, the era we are today is not the era of the theoretical knowledge alone. It's the era of invention and innovation, the era of creativity, the era of thinking outside the box, era of using your skills, your talent, and your practical knowledge. That's why you see that some people who are not privileged to go to school practically or literally goes to learn one skill or the other to survive. We all know how the economy of every country worldwide is right now. It's not smiling, even that of Ghana, Nigeria. So I would say in a nutshell and in summary that the reason I sit here to tell you that Ghana education should be the best that anybody who is thinking of traveling to Canada, to UK, to Europe, I've got Ghanaians who are there, citizens of this country, mentioning times without number that even their educational system that they find themselves in the countries they are even crap compared to what Ghana has. Have you taken your time? I would advise you take your time to do research on Ghana's institution. It might be a small country, it might be a country with less population, but the numbers of schools they have in terms of basic, senior high school, colleges, university, as much as the number that they have or as little as they have compared to what other countries have, it's not just the number but what they deliver, how grounded this university, this educational system, educational structures, educational infrastructures actually are, what they deliver. That's why I've got so many Nigerians, not just because they cannot pass JAMB alone, but because they want to get the best when it comes to education, send their children to school over there in Ghana. And by the time these children, most of them who go there for the right reason and know why they're there, by the time they come back and they are graduated, you see how they position themselves very well in the society. I'm telling you, and they pride themselves. Where did you school? I schooled in Ghana. Because if you don't know, Ghana is the new America. Ghana is the new Canada. Ghana is the new UK. Ghana is the new Asia. Ghana is the new China that you should be tapping tapping from. There are so many untapped knowledge in that country, and I can tell you, I can promise you that as long as the country is concerned, based of what their citizens, based of what their leaders hold on the high esteem, which is what quality, sound and grounded education, it must continue. And that's why when you see a Ghanaian are always spotted on their sound English. I've got some of them coming to TikTok me here now. Sound English, polished English, their intelligence, in fact the way and manner they carry and position themselves. Oh my God, oh my God. For the good ones, for the ones that really know what they are doing, all right, I can tell you, I can sit down here and tell you that yes, you can't school in Ghana and come back the same, except the school didn't go through you. You were the one going around the school doing things that definitely are not expected of you. But if you go to school in Ghana, no matter the level of education you acquire there, it will definitely show. It will show. It will show. And that is it. That is what we want. We see now that in the map, when it comes to ranking, Ghana is ranking. Look at how many times Ghanaian students, Ghanaian senior high school students, we saw the other one, down to India, and the smaller kids who travel there, how they went there, competed. Is it in America? They have been there times without number, competing with the locals and outsmarting and winning them hands down, beating them hands down, coming back with the trophy. What does it tell you? All these things, is it a joke? Is it just mere saying? We've seen how Ghanaian students, even internally within themselves as a nation, hold competitions that is testing their practical knowledge, that is testing their intellectual knowledge, their social knowledge, their complete character and behavior in learning in all aspects as students, and they perform and stand out excellently well. We've seen it. There are so many, right? So when I sit down here and tell you that, ladies and gentlemen, why go to school in America? Why go to school in Canada? Why go to school in UK when we have Ghana? Of course, you should know that it's not cheap. So stop underrating the fact that universities in West Africa like Ghana and so many other good universities that I know we have in West Africa and Africa are not to be compared and equated to that of what? America, UK. It's a lie from the pit of hell. And I'm here at the end of the day to convince you, to give you stated facts and figures that hey, it is not what you think, but look within you. What you're looking for in Sokoto is right there in your Shokoto, just like we usually say it, yes. And that is it, guys. I want to say a massive well done to the motherland, coming all the way from West Africa down to Africa, representing us when it comes to education, any day, anytime, anywhere. Oh shit, baddest. And that's one thing that anytime I sit down and want to talk about Ghana, there are so many reasons, so many things to talk about. This one will not slip my mind. So in my course of research, I have come to a conclusion. I have come to a finalization that yes, if you want the best quality education, look no further outside. Just look within you. Go straight to the motherland. Keep your money and you will get the best. Premium quality, right? Premium or nothing. And that is it, guys. And yes, with this, I will say we've come to the end of this episode. If you actually did understand, comprehend, and can relate to what I'm saying, or are there things that I fail to put out as points and objective, let me know, because there are so many things that time will not let me to sit down and break down to bits that we need to even know when it comes to schooling outside, benefits of schooling within your own, because you see, it's adding to the growth and development of the country. If everybody is running outside and living outside and schooling outside, we will not develop. Our country will not develop. West Africa will not develop. Africa will not develop, right? And at the end of the day, that is one of the reasons why the Minister of Education for Ghana thought it wise to come back home and give back to his nation. And within the space of time that this man stayed there, we could see what he was able to deliver. Till date, I pray that he still retained, fingers crossed. I pray and I believe so that he will give us more opportunities and give us more grounds to leverage on in terms of different educational system, pattern, infrastructure, and whatnot. And that is it, guys. So like I said, leave your thoughts, your opinion, your objectives down there in the comment section. And let's have this conversation as like minds, matured minds, constructively and respectfully. And with that being said, I would like to say thank you for your time, for patiently watching, because I needed to take my time to stress on this and analyze it the right way. If you did learn a thing or two, let me know as well. And if you are yet to like this video, kindly hit on the like button, share and subscribe. You see, your girl, your girl, they don't want me to rest, because of this job we are doing. But you see, leave that. We don't need distraction. This is 2025. For most of you who I love and respect, say, Victoria, Chivik, focus on your focus. Leave distraction. This 2025. The devil is a bastard. He can't pull us down. We stand, we mount. Nothing they happen, right? For all of you who have subscribed without me even telling you, you saw what you saw and you love what you saw here. And what you have been seeing, you are still here. Respect, much respect. Thank you guys. I appreciate all your love, online, offline. May God continually bless you, keep you. This year is our year. We're going to make it big and more interesting, captivating, inspiring, and educative episode. We'll be landing here back to back. So go nowhere. Turn on the bell icon and keeping it real, happy, safe, and blessed till I see you in my next one. But for now, do have a lovely, peaceful, blessed, and a successful day. It's me, it's I, your host, the ambassador, Oshe Baddest, Oshe Baddest. They are daddy, they're not rich. I'll see you in my next one. Bye.